Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Transit Report starting on Monday, June 24th. However, before we go to Monday, I just want to back up for a couple minutes here because we had the solstice on Thursday, and then we had a full moon on Friday. Now, Randy and I did another recording, and we did a deep dive into these charts, and that also is available in the video archive section. It's also available at our webpage, emergedbydesign.net. And also just want to share that she had a lovely ceremony at Jonah's house. We had wonderful attendance, and it was very moving and just really nice to take a little time to stop and breathe in the quality of this time of year. For those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, of course, we were enjoying the longest day of the year and one of the main chapters of solar energy for the year, the yang energy that gives us this life force. And so when we think about both of the solstices and both of the equinoxes, those four cardinal points of the astrological wheel are like chapters of the sun. And so we can look at those equinoxes and solstice charts to see what the theme is. And then we also had our full moon on Friday. So the main point I want to make before we go to Monday is that you all have been with me following these transits. And as I keep saying, we're in our fifth lunar cycle. And when you start with the Rave New Year and go through, then we had the spring equinox right after that. And then we've had 5 new moons. Every one of those charts, which again are the major thematics of the moon and the sun, our two luminaries, have been all or only individual circuitry defined. Every single one of them, a lot of a channel of initiation. So again, this year we have been stimulated very deeply at the most inner recess of who we are as an individual. You know, if we look at the individual gates that you have in your own chart and then check out those new moon charts to see what other piece to the story were those celestial events bringing us. In other words, whatever gates and channels we have in our own chart, individual, those were being stimulated by so much individual activation in all of these previous new moons and Brave New Year and spring equinox. So all that to say that as we got to the summer solstice for Northern Hemisphere, this is the first time this year we've had a chart at one of these major points that was not only individual. And as we look forward to the rest of the year, we will have some individuality, of course. I mean, there's always going to be gates, but we're moving to a very different frequency of tribal and collective. And so briefly to sum that up, I feel this transition is whatever's been stimulated. If you'll remember, we had the total solar eclipse in April that was exactly conjunct Chiron to the minute. So again, just lots of stuff has been stimulated, and there's been an initiation, an opportunity, and an invitation to go deeply inward, to rediscover a new level of our authenticity, a new level of our truth. And as we come to the solstice here, very interesting to notice this channel of rhythm, a design of being in the flow, because the solstice happens when the sun enters gate 15, line 2, and the moon happened to be in gate 5 at the time of the exact solstice. So here again, these two luminaries, the major driving forces in the planetary hierarchy of our being, were both combined in the channel of rhythm. And so I think just what a wonderful contemplation there, that as we've been stimulated and initiated and maybe dredged up things that need to be re-examined, and a new layer of healing and forgiveness and all of these individual thematics that go into finding our truth and inspiration, now all of a sudden with this transition point, we're seeing this idea of collective circuitry, of logic circuitry, of how do we move into this new space that we may have cultivated in regards to this new sense of truth and inspiration, and how do we find rhythm with that? How do we reestablish boundaries, or maybe re-examine boundaries where we need to let things go that are no longer serving us, whether it be relationships or habits, sleep patterns, diet, exercise, everything that goes into how we can align with the natural energetics of our body and feel being in the flow, finding that comfortable rhythm that works for us. And we had the channel of the wavelength, a design of talent, South Node in 48, Jupiter in gate 16. So there may be a new opportunity to express our depth and solutions in a skillful and talented way as we've gone through this very mutative period. And I mentioned mutation because that was the channel that was defined in the current lunar cycle we're in. We're still in the June 6th Gemini new moon, and we had the channel of mutation. So we're still in that cycle. And so I thought that was a very interesting to see this chart here at the solstice. And then we'll go to Friday real quick. Here was the Capricorn full moon on Friday, June 21st, less than 24 hours after the summer solstice. Very unusual to have a full moon so close to the solstice. I read that this only happens about every 20 years. So anytime we see something like this that's more rare tends to give it more significance. And so that was a unique aspect to this solstice. A lot of energy, right? For the Northern Hemisphere, the sun at his absolute standstill zenith, and here the moon at her zenith within that 24-hour period. And so looking at the moon here, aligned with the Earth, which she always is, obviously, at every full moon, and they were both in gate 10, line 4. So think about this gate of behavior and also a gate of self-love, and kind of tying that into that channel of rhythm. How does our rhythm express and share in a natural, logical way this newfound sense of self-acceptance? Gate 60, self-love, gate 10. So yeah, also want to mention, as we're looking at the sign of Cancer, right? We've been traveling with Mercury and Venus and the Sun all very close together, and they're all in Cancer, of course. So Cancer being the sign of the moon and the sign of inner life, inner emotions, peace, tranquility. Really, this season right now, not only the sun, but two personal planets traveling through Cancer right now. A beautiful time to really, again, appreciate, reflect on our inner world. How are we doing with all the initiation, just continuing to give that self-nourishing love, care, and space, really, to appreciate the bounty of summer for us in the Northern Hemisphere, but also our home and the inner security that we derive from all that. Cancer is such a beautiful water emotional sign, and I love to think about the crab that is the sign of Cancer. And I'm sure we've all seen crabs on the ocean and how interesting an animal they are. They're so sensitive. They move with that waves of the ocean. They'll scurry up the sand when the wave comes in, and they'll move back down. To think about how sensitive their little feet and their claws are. They know exactly where the moisture is. They can sense the feeling of the waves coming in. So they're just so attuned, and how they move like that. Just very, very great symbol for this inner world of Cancer, how sensitive we can be, and how important that is, not only for our own sensitivity, but to be available for other sensitivity. So that's just a large, certainly, frequency that we're in right now. And this would bring us to Monday, June 24th. And my chart is not loading. Not sure. Let's see. Maybe it'll pop up here in a second. On Monday, the sun today, and these charts are run for noon Mountain Time, all of them except the first quarter moon, which I'll get to later in the week. This is for noon time today. The sun's still traveling through gate 15. We're in line 6 today with the Earth in gate 10. And the thing I see here is, look at all these activations down in the root center, because when we look at Cancer, and this is where we'll be going tomorrow, because the sun will move into gate 52. But with those 3 planets in Cancer, we're getting a heavy dose of 52, 39, and 53. And with the moon today traveling through gate 19 for most of the daylight hours, for again, our here in the US anyway, this lunar emotional quality in the gate of need, in the channel of sensitivity, Now, this as we can hear just from the keynoting, what a sensitive day, right? It may have that quality to it. Now, it's tender in that sense, I think, because on the one hand, we still have Venus in gate 52 today. Venus will move tomorrow, but Venus in 52 and Mercury in gate 53. So Mercury being the planet of communication in the sign of Cancer with its emotional sensitivity, Mercury may have this sensation of wanting to start something. Gate 53 is the pressure to begin a new cycle. And I think a part of that cycle has to do with Saturn in gate 22. Saturn has slowed down. He's barely moving this week. Saturn is literally at a standstill. He doesn't move more than a minute or two of a degree all week because he has stopped, and he's going to turn retrograde later on this weekend. So he's really holding space in that gate 22, bringing his structuring ability, the discipline, possible growth and maturity to gate 22. So I feel like this sensitivity is tying into the possibility to begin a new cycle of emotional depth and maturity around our individual expression of our inner world in that sense. And maybe sharing that with a new ability of depth and talent through the 4816. And Uranus now firmly stationed, or firmly in, not stationed, still moving forward, but in gate 8, another individual gate of contribution, individual contribution to larger group goals. So I feel like even on Monday here, we're getting a sense of transition, that we've come through some deeply personal initiating portal the first half of this year, and now we can move into the embodiment of that expression, the verbal sharing with others, the integrated pattern and rhythm that we organize our day by. Could be really supportive right now. We go to Tuesday, June 25th, and tomorrow the sun will move into gate 52. And again, looking at that root center, we have 3 of the formatting gates. All 3 of those channels between the root and the sacral center are always very potent and powerful. And here we have all 3 with Pluto in gate 60, Mercury in 53, and now the sun in gate 52, putting the earth in gate 58. So when we think about gate 52, this is a formatting gate in the channel of logic, a design of concentration and determination. It's called the mountain in the original I Ching, keeping still, right? And so I love the image of this gate because we all know big mountains. We love mountains. Just looking at a mountain is so internally stimulating, the size and the power and the grandeur and the stillness. I mean, a mountain, they don't move, but they carry so much incredible energy. And to watch mountains with the changing light from a sunrise to the midday to the evening and the sunset, yeah, it just stimulates so much beauty and tranquility. And so for this week, you know, having the sun here, I think it's such an opportunity to be still, you know, really to take stock right now, enjoy the bounty of the sun for those of us that are in the Northern Hemisphere, to appreciate the little things that we do have in our life. And it's really bringing the life force energy to stop and take stock, you know, to be patient, to observe who's in our life, to what's the value that we feel from that and the appreciation and what we're sharing with them in this Cancerian season of sensitivity. And yeah, so and that 52 tied into its polarity, gate 58, the gate of the joyous, being grounded in the Earth's energy through the gate of the joyous, finding joy. This is the pressure to improve our ability to experience joy, which is something we all love. And so that 52-58, such a powerful message this week is to stop, be still, breathe, appreciate, and sense joy wherever it may be. Again, this has been such a stimulating time that there's a lot to take in. And this is going to be a beautiful week to really appreciate, to stop and smell the roses, I think would be the title of this week, I think, if I was to try to give it one. Also on Tuesday, the moon in gate 49 for a large part of the day will be sextile Chiron, which is still in gate 42. Chiron is in gate 42, line 3, which is the gate of growth. Also, he doesn't get an activation in the body graph, but this would actually bring us the formatting channel for sensing emotional circuitry. A design of cycles, beginnings, middles, and ends. That's what that 53 I was talking about with Mercury, this pressure to begin a new cycle of experience. And with Chiron bringing the gate 42 in that sense, yeah, there's this conversation on Tuesday between the moon and this free-flowing, supportive, emotional sextile to gate 42 and the Chiron. So again, how are we making this transition from being stimulated from past wounds over this past year so far, and how is that developed now? What is our new cycle of experience going to look like in relation to Chiron, and to how we've healed or forgiven ourselves or forgiven others? Now we're moving into this new cycle of how that can be shared, channel of rhythm from the solstice. How does that affect our life pattern right now? I always felt like this part of the chart, we had the moon in gate 19 on today, Monday. Then the moon would have gone through gate 13, the gate of the listener, and then we get the other end of that channel, 49. So whenever we see a planet transiting this portion of Aquarius, we know that we're getting this interesting dynamic where one end of the channel of sensitivity starts with the 19, and then we get the 49. So I think these couple of days with the moon making that movement, again, bringing that idea of sensitivity, being available for the needs for others, realizing that how we're able to share and be part of that process may have evolved now since we've gone through this portal. How we're experiencing this sensitivity, maybe we've become, in a healthy growth way, less sensitive to the triggers that were affecting us previously. We've healed that part of ourselves, hopefully. Maybe there's been some movement from this past experiences, traumatic, whatever they are. So I feel like this channel of sensitivity may have some different quality to it that we're receiving, but that's a great area to look in our chart to see how that may have developed in relation to that Chiron story. But definitely it's being brought to the forefront with that moon sextile Chiron on Tuesday. Additionally, Uranus in gate 8 is in a half square to Venus in gate 39. So when we think about this, again, here with Venus going to be in gate 39 for several days, the gate of the provocation. This is the pressure to evoke our emotional spirit of gate 55. Love gate 55. I mean, it is a very emotional gate, but just the idea of that abundance of emotional spirit. It's so connected to our individuality. We all love that sensation where we're just full with the spirit of life in that sense. And so Venus here is really asking for that, right? Venus is that inner planet of love, beauty, harmony. It's always Venus is what we want in life. And here she is pressurizing us to find the other end of that channel. It's like, where is my spirit right now? And again, I keep referring it back to this transition period in the year. How are we experiencing what that is like, that individual drive to experience emotional spirit? And so Venus in that 39 is in a half square in this sort of dynamic growth energy that a half square promotes back to the gate 8. How is my expression changing? I think it's really helpful right now for, these last few weeks and this time period to really be listening to our own voice in conversation. Something comes up from our past. How are we sharing it to the other person? We can be so connected to old stories. We've really developed whatever, maybe sometimes, I know for me, it tends to edge into that victim mode. Oh, that story, I tell it from such a disempowering way. But the idea now is that there's been growth and development. If I hear myself share something related to the old me, I want to catch myself. Oh, I don't want to be telling an old story. I'm involved in a new story right now. So I think listening to this stimulation from the transits and Uranus this here in this gate 8 being, like I said, triggered, stimulated by that Venus in 39, that pressure of my emotional spirit, I'm in a new cycle of development right now. So if I don't hear myself sharing something that I really feel like is my new truth, I want to drop it. I want to drop these old stories. I no longer want to be telling any victim stories. That is not me. That is not us. That is not what this life is about. But so there's great opportunity right now, I think, to experience that this week, particularly with that aspect on Tuesday. Okay, then we'll go to Wednesday, June 26th. We have a number of interesting things happening right here. Okay, Mercury in gate 53 is forming a trine with that Saturn. They're both at 19 degrees. Mercury 19 degrees Cancer, Saturn 19 degrees Pisces. They're both in water signs. So we're getting a free-flowing, supportive frequency of energy between the planet of communication, still in this pressure to start this new cycle of experience, and here again, directly connected to that gate 22. So there's something possible here. Again, hearing ourselves share our emotional stories with others, really, really great opportunity to watch for this depth and maturity that Saturn is offering us in our individual emotional energy. How are we sharing that with others? And hopefully it's the hero's journey we may hear. Been through that. It sucked. It was awful, but there's something changing now. There's something shifting at a deep inner core level of me. And so there's this opportunity here, that communication. We want to listen for the change, right? Make sure that we're really reflecting this new sense of self that was in the offering here. We also have the moon in gate 37, the gate of friendship and family, another solar plexus gate tied to our relationships and our communities that we are in, is square to that Jupiter in gate 16. So I think this ties into that. How are these stories being shared? The moon and these friendships, right? This gate of support, tribal circuitry, how we're asking for support, giving for support, and this dynamic growth energy with how we're sharing the refinement. That's what this channel of talent is so dedicated to, refining how we share these emotional growth cycles that we're going through, and Jupiter being the planet of expansion. We may have this newfound ability to share this in a skillful way that really aligns with our authority through this movement of transition. And then almost at the same time, that moon in 37 will also be moving, has already just had an exact trine with the sun. And so that sun in gate 52, again, major theme for the whole week, but we can feel how to be present right now, to be the mountain, to be your own mountain. And I think those daily modalities of connecting your feet into the dirt and grass of Mother Earth, feeling the wind and the sun hitting our skin, to really sink into that this week, because that's where we have the support right now. And so we can feel I think by doing that, having those moments each day to really be present to our internal fortitude and mountain-like strength, this is what will assist the moon aspects to the 22 and to the gate 8, these individual emotional expression, individual inspirational expression. What is our story sounding like right now? Big question mark this week. Lastly, again, I said there was a lot of things on Wednesday. Venus, still in gate 39, is squaring the nodal axis. So the planet of love, beauty, and harmony, pressurizing us to sense our emotional spirit, is now connected to nodal axis. We have the South Node in Libra, the idea of coming from what these relationships, what we've learned that I've been talking about, these past experiences in our life, what we're pulling forward. South Node in 48, the gate of depth in Libra, has this ability to tap into the past. And how do we move that with our new sense of inspiration and greater sense of truth into the future of the North Node in 21 in Aries, the sign of self-expression and confidence? How is this portal of initiation, how are we now able to stand up with a newfound confidence to express these skills? And so, yeah, this Venus on the nodes for Wednesday, a great time for reevaluation. Again, to me, even though it's a T-square, which is, again, dynamic energy for growth and development, it's supportive in the sense of taking stock, using the energy of the sun in gate 52 to be still and look at our path. Look at where we've come from. Where are we going? Where are we right now? Am I aligned with my Venusian morals and principles of what I feel is love, harmony, and truth of authenticity to me? How's that lining up with my direction right now? And I think we get a hit of that on Wednesday with that transit. As we go into Thursday, the moon in gate 22 for a large part of the day on Thursday is going to be trining Mercury, who has now moved into gate 62. On Thursday, Mercury moves into gate 62, still in, now Mercury's moving into a logical gate. And again, very important because we had that logical channel of rhythm just at the solstice. And here with Mercury, the planet of communication, moving into a throat gate of expression. And so this ability to express details, again, the details surrounding our stories. How is that? What do they sound like now? And the moon in that gate 22 is making that conjunction. Now, at this noontime chart, the conjunction with Saturn and the moon would have just happened. It happens in the morning, but certainly feeling it for the full day, the moon bringing her emotional energy to an emotional gate with that Saturn, and it's trining that gate 62. So again, how are we sharing details? How are we making the refinement of the channel of talent to express these details as we're tending the garden of our soul? I feel like this initiation and the portal we've been through, we're coming out of that, but we're still tender. We're still in the new phases. We're kind of in a toddler phase of coming out of this portal of initiation. And so this is very sensitive here, having the moon in gate 22 and how that's stimulating our emotional expression and interaction with others. Here, this is a great day to talk it out, right? With our loved ones or the therapist or whoever, we've got this free-flowing supportive trine with this powerful planet of communication in the gate of details to sort out these details, to talk about these new boundaries or how we're finding new ways to incorporate this deeper sense of authenticity. Wonderful day to be talking about that on Thursday. And also another interesting movement, we have Mars on Thursday moving into gate 2. The gate of inner truth. This is the, all 6 lines are yin. This is the most yin, the most receptive gate in the body graph. And here we have Mars, the god of war, the male archetype, in this incredibly yin energy. So interesting polarity to have Mars, which is kind of the most yang planet, if you will, in the most yin gate. And so, yeah, what can we say here? I just sense this energetic drive to understand inner truth and to remember that the drive to understand inner truth is actually more about being still from the gate 52 to accept, right? This is the very location of our magnetic monopole. So Mars always has such an outward go-getter frequency, but try to harness that energy into being present and receptive to life, to accept life. Pluto in gate 60. Yes, there are limitations. Yes, there are an infinite number of challenges that life will bring us, but we can recognize now that every stimulating challenge life is offering us to reframe our attitude, reframe our perception. I am being invited to heal and express a greater sense of truth, not being caught in the victim mode, not being yearning for the past to go back and figure out what happened. We're beyond that now. We are having this Martian energy in our receptivity and to be still with the gate 52, to accept the limitations of gate 60, and to stand present in the Mars gate 2 of our inner truth and how that may evolve into the gate 8 with Uranus, that's innovative self-expression right now at a new frequency, a new level of development. As we go to Friday, this is going to be the third quarter moon. So this is the only chart that is not at noon Mountain Time. This is run for the exact minute of the third quarter moon, which is 3:53 p.m. Mountain Time. So we've been in the waning phase. I hadn't mentioned that since I started this session today. But yes, after the full moon, of course, on Friday, we were moving into the waning phase. So we started out with this mutative energy at the new moon, and that first half of the cycle was growing emotional lunar energy to move things forward, to really sink into what this cycle of mutation is about. But after the full moon, we're in the waning phase, and which we've been in since Saturday of last weekend. And so here we are finally to a week later on Friday when the moon is at her third quarter square to the sun. So the moon is at 7 degrees 40 minutes of Aries, squaring the sun at 7 degrees 40 minutes of Cancer. Third quarter moons are very dynamic because we have our two luminaries in a square, right? This 90-degree angle of dynamic growth and energy, but it's the closing square. So in other words, this is a time to take inventory, to reflect on the rest of the previous month so far. What has happened? How have we done all these things I've been sharing about tending the garden of our soul, taking agency? That's the word I like to use with third quarter moon. Not always the best time maybe to launch a brand new project or something of that nature, something really large, but there's great energy to take agency to resolve movements we've already had. Again, I'm thinking about letting things go that are not serving us, reestablishing boundaries that need some consideration, and so forth. So that's this energy of the third quarter moon. What have we learned through what we've been through so far this month, and how do we integrate that? Another great word for third quarter moon. How do we integrate this cycle? Because we have one more week as we move towards the next new moon to really bring this into our embodiment, to really, as the moon returns home, so is our body. We're coming towards the end of this cycle. And we also have, on this particular day, at the third quarter moon, we have a couple of important things. One is Mercury is forming a square to that Chiron in gate 42. So Mercury still in that gate 62 I had mentioned, forming this dynamic frequency of growth and development. Again, what are we sharing about what we've grown from? Gate 62, how are we sharing it in these detailed ways, tied up with Mercury right now? So again, as we make this third quarter moon turn here, what does that feel like? What has this inner resolution of healing and forgiveness, how is that being expressed now through our, not only gate 62, but the moon at the third quarter moon is in gate 17. Gate of opinions. This is forming the channel of acceptance, a design of an organizational being. So when I'm seeing this channel right now, I'm just sensing, yeah, how is this story being shared? If it doesn't sound, if I don't hear acceptance, if there's no acceptance in my story and I'm still edging towards the victim side of the spectrum, take a look at it. There's not a problem with it. It just means we're still refining through that channel of talent, refining how we're sharing this new sense of authenticity and self-expression. I think the channel of acceptance is really highlighting that at this dynamic energy of the third quarter moon. Additionally, another very interesting transit going on is that we can see that Mars in that gate 2 I mentioned is forming an exact sextile to Venus in the gate 39. So here we have our male archetype and our female archetype, Mars, Venus, in this free-flowing supportive sextile, and they're going to be traveling together. You know, they move at a little bit different speeds, but they're going to be in the same degree for 2 or 3 days here. So there's this frequency between our masculine and our feminine side. How are we feeling the balance of that, right? We're talking about Cancer and sensitivity and nourishing and all that goes into that. We want to be making sure that we're feeling internally balanced with enough of our yin and masculine to be a fully synergistic, holistic human being, we want to have some balance there. And with Venus in the 39 and Mars in that gate too, again, sensing the dynamic of that sextile, how this pressure that Venus is bringing us to find the values and desires that we have and to be reaching out to the emotional spirit, how that relates on the third quarter moon to this higher knowing, gate two, this higher knowing of inner truth. What is going on there? lot of energy, lot to contemplate here, to think about how we're experiencing that frequency, and of course following our authority on when and how to engage with that. But really dynamic stuff here with Mars and Venus, I think, in the 39 and the gate two. And just lastly, I guess I've missed one of the aspects on this day. We have Jupiter in that gate 16, also in a very important position, because Jupiter is semi-sextile to the sun and sextile to the moon at the exact degree. They're all three of those are at 7 degrees of the sign they're in. So Jupiter is really holding the apex between the sun in gate 52 and the moon in gate 17. So I just think this brings a lot of channeled energy to that gate 16. Again, all about our verbal manifest or physical manifestation in a skillful way, how we're moving with that channel of rhythm from the solstice and expressing it with the bounty and benevolence and powers of Jupiter. Jupiter is a planet of protection, and it's here to support us, and it brings abundance. So somehow we're getting an important dynamic on this third quarter moon in how we are able to share the depths and healing process from our past and the portal we've been through into this very skillful way. Somehow we have this opportunity to keep refining through being still and really appreciating all the little things in our life that we can be grateful for, and accepting this new cycle of development that we've been in. How are we sharing that with abundance in a skillfully abundant way to support ourselves and others? Okay, we'll go to Saturday now. On Saturday, we can see the moon is traveling through gate 51 for a large part of the day. So we're getting another hit of the channel of initiation. This has been the most consistently activated channel of the year, okay, by a long shot. I wish I'd had that stat. I'd love to share with you how many days compared to all the other channels, but I don't have all that available. Just to say, I know that this is the most divine channel we have had this year. So even though this is a fast moving aspect with the moon, it's just going to last for the large part of the day here with the moon in gate 51, but re-stimulating this initiation. It's almost like the moon, she's returning home to the sun on the waning cycle. We're past the third quarter moon. So she drives through old gate 51 here and sort of checks in on that. How has this initiation process been going? Again, where are we? If we are where we are. So it's certainly about just accepting where we are, but using that energy of the sun in the 52, the earth in the 58 all week to be grounded into how am I improving my quality of joy in an authentic way of personal expression. And as I mentioned, that Mars and Venus, here we are now. They both have moved, but they're in lockstep. Yesterday they were both at 14 degrees. Today they're both at 15 degrees, still forming this exact sextile. So again, we're thinking gate 39 and gate 2. We're thinking masculine archetype, feminine archetype, really the embodiments of both. There's some areas where we need to have a little more yin, and sometimes we need a little more yang. But I think it's because we've been so stimulated. So that's where, again, I just feel like embodiment exercise, or whatever you love, yoga, singing, being in nature, like, wow, what a wonderful time in this Cancer season here to ground out, to accept the natural rhythms of the world brought to us by the eclipses and solstices, the natural rhythms of the moon brought to us every month by her lunar cycles, really being present to that right now, really just somehow connecting with nature and realize how we are connected to all of that. Very, very beautiful week in that sense. Also on Saturday, Saturn will turn retrograde in that gate 22, just to note that. So again, that gate 22, because we had a slow-moving planet like Saturn, who already spends a long time in each gate, but when he stops and goes retrograde, he spends even more time. So he's really driving home the message of growth and maturity in individual emotional expression. And I can't stop saying how that could tie into the story from the year. If there's been progress in healing and development, there will be a new emotional expression, an expression that is less triggered, that is less insecure, that has a newfound confidence, North Node in Aries, a newfound confidence that our wounds are no longer tender. They are now our soul scars in our growth and maturity that give us depth and experience. And so there's all this story tied up with Saturn and gate 22 and what's possible as he brings a restructuring stability to how we express individually inside of group interactions. Very powerful activity. He'll go retrograde. I'll talk more about that, of course, in the future. He is going to go back into gate 36 eventually. So we're going to get a little bit, I'm sorry, I meant to say gate 63. He'll go back into there a little bit and then get back to gate 22. But that's all to come in later weeks. We'll get to that. And then finally, here on Sunday, June 30th, that Jupiter in gate 16 is forming a half square to Chiron, and it's exact on Sunday. So again, just more of this story I'm building here, that half square, very similar to a square. It can be frictional, but it is like getting a fire going, friction, getting the fire to ignite. It stimulates growth and development. So we have the expansiveness in Jupiter in gate 16, forming this dynamic half square with Chiron in 42. So there's evolution in this story. It's like, how's it working? Chiron is actually this week, not only gate 42, but he's in line 3. It's called the line of trial and error. As we try on this new expression through what we've been through, it takes a while to get our footing. You know, like I said, we might even catch ourselves retelling an old story in the old way, but we can catch it, we can hear it and go, wait a minute, I want to rephrase that. I am done telling that story that way, right? This is the hero's journey that's possible. So really incredible half square aspect with that Jupiter, which is really, I think, guiding us into that 16. Though, how do we refine that? We're in a different place now. We've gone through this transition, and we can share these stories in a new, empowering way. And that's the key word there. How has this self-empowerment evolved over this period of time? And so very dynamic energy possible with that aspect on Sunday. And that will also be the last day that the sun and earth are in gate 52, gate 8. So when I do the report next Monday, the sun will move into gate 39, the earth in gate 38, and we'll have a whole different frequency going on. But I think that is all that I had to share today. And again, as always, happy to discuss with you guys anything that stood out to you, any reflections, questions, comments, please feel free. And if are you guys still there? If there's anything to hear, be happy to commune with you. And if not, we can wrap it up as well. Let's see. There's a thank you, Liz. Well, I appreciate doing it with you all. So yeah, good. I'm so glad. Yeah. Yeah. Just always, I just, yeah, thank you for that. I think it really is supportive. Again, we know in human design, it is always our personal authority. But wonderful, Monique. So glad to hear your sharing. Yeah. But these transits, right? We are all 64 gates, all 36 channels. We are the whole body graph. Yes, we have our natal activations, which is our piece to the puzzle, but we're always getting the other pieces from the transit. So following authority allows us to experience the whole piece, right? So yeah, I think so helpful just to be aware, not to do anything about it, just to know that this is where there is support from these transits, all driving us home into our natal chart and what the ultimate truth, purpose, and authentic expression of that is. So anyway, always a great time to share this with you guys. Thank you so much for your appreciation. I love that. And I hope you have a lovely week, and we will see you on Discord or next week. Have a great day, you guys. Thank you.